Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 71 of the... What do we call this thing again?
It's called the Ad Nauseam podcast.
It's been a while since we've been in here.
It has been a long time.
Right. So it's episode 71 of the Ad Nauseam podcast, which is, we run this thing, don't we?
We do, yes. It's something about classical gourmands. You eat something, you read something, you talk about something.
Talk about something and eat something again.
Talk about eating something.
Yeah.
What's been getting us down, Dr. Jeffrey T. Winkle?
Well, I think it's a number of things. For me, it's the weather and the shortening of the days is part of it for me.
Well, I have to correct you, as is my want.
Yeah.
The days are getting longer.
It doesn't feel
now.
like it, though. In Michigan, it goes backwards. Everybody knows
yes,
this, right?
Superman goes back and sees his shadow.
Yes, exactly right.
8 more weeks of winter.
I know.
So since about the winter solstice, I guess that's December 21st.
Yes.
From that point on, it's a long stretch to smarch.
It is a long stretch to smarch.
Exactly.
In which you still get that lousy smarch weather.
That's right. And we've had a nearly polar vortex.
We have. It's been frigid and cold.
Yes.
Both of us have been fighting the flu and
not just the flu. I don't know, the serious one.
The serious flu.
We both had some of that COVID.
Right.
And boy.
So it feels like it's been forever since we've been in here.
It's been a long time. I would say about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
How long do you think the listener wants to listen to us? Go on and on like this.
I think we should probably wrap it up and move on from there.
Wrap it up.
Right. So
we're back, is what we're saying.
We're back. As always, I am Dr. Jeff Winkle. I'm here with my good friend, Dr. David Noe. And tonight we're talking Cicero.
We are talking Cicero.
This is right in your wheelhouse,
Time
sir.
for the big guy. This is my bailiwick.
This is your bailiwick. Yes, the wheelhouse. This is your sweet spot, you might say.
This is my sweet spot.
So you're going to bring it.
It's up my alley.
Yes, excellent.
I'm going to do what I can.
All right, but before we do that, we have a shout-out.
We have a shout-out and a long list of corregenda.
Oh, no. Did we make all that?
We made so many mistakes, especially me, but especially you.
Especially me, too?
Yeah.
All right.
Shout-out first.
Yes.
This one goes to a dear friend of mine, Mr. Bill Carson, who lives in Chesterfield, Michigan. And I've known Bill for well over a decade. He is, I would have to say, up to this point, hitherto, an occasional listener of the podcast.
Okay.
Now, you might be asking yourself, dear listener, dear viewer, why is an occasional listener getting a shout-out? How did he earn that?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, it's because of his long friendship and devotion. He especially liked the episode Growing Up Classical.
Oh, yes, with your daughter.
With my daughter.
Yes.
And he liked the episodes on Thermopylae.
Oh, we did.
Which, as everyone knows, is the origin of the brackish tang.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Excellent.
So Bill is an ex-pharmacist.
Okay.
Yep, tapharmakon, nice Greek word. And was my Hebrew tutor for more than a decade.
Wow.
So a very capable guy.
He knows Hebrew and he was a pharmacist?
He knows Hebrew. He knows Greek. He's studying Latin in his retirement.
Fabulous.
Yes, this guy has been a tremendous blessing to me. Everyone in their life needs a Bill Carson.
Really?
Just a devoted friend. I really don't deserve him, let's be frank.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks, Bill, for listening, and thanks for being such a good friend to Dave.
Yes, who needs them, right?
Yeah. So we got to get to some corregenda.
We have to. There are some things that must be corrected.
What
First
did we mess
of all,
up? Was this just from our last episode?
I think it's just from the last episode.
Man.
First of all, Elgar was a composer. Edward Elgar was a composer. But there is, in fact, a painter, and his name is George Elgar Hicks.
Okay.
So if anyone's listening closely, in the last episode, right, someone, namely I, misidentified Elgar as a painter.
I see. Okay.
Not really the case.
All right. It's hard to keep your Elgars apart.
I've
always found that, yeah.
It's, how do we go? It's, we need more Elgar room, something like that.
Exactly.
A second corrigendum secundum, the second one, about minute 53 in the podcast.
Well, that's really specific.
It is specific.
Are you sifting through these things?
I have to listen to them.
Okay.
We can't just release them into the wild, undoctored, unvaccinated.
All right, so what happened
at minute 53, Dr. Noe, one of us at least, misidentified Alphaeus and Peneus as the rivers on the west pediment of the Parthenon.
Okay.
No. These are Arcadian rivers.
Okay.
These are the rivers in Arcadia in the Peloponnesus.
Okay.
In fact, nobody knows for sure who the rivers are on the west pediment of the Parthenon.
All right.
One is maybe the river Ilissos, and the other is unknown.
Gotcha. We would have been better off just not even saying anything about it at all.
Yes, I should have just, kept quiet.
I gotcha.
At that
Okay.
point.
All right. Okay. Oh, then we speculate about Lord Byron's line, talking about the envious eld.
Envious eld. And what is an eld?
Yeah.
Right. So I looked it up.
And
I found out that it means old, basically.
Okay, elder, right?
It's a surname or a last name. It's from an Old Norse word meaning flame. But it comes to mean envious eld, envious old age. So antiquity is the idea.
Gotcha.
Lord Byron turns a phrase, carves a pillar, and still busting our chops. What?
Seriously?
200 years
Plus
later.
Yeah, God, sheesh, lay off, Byron.
No kidding.
Man. All right.
Oh, my goodness.
That's got to be the last of the
No, there's one more.
There's one more. Okay, all right.
Someone else, one of us, and it wasn't you, a little process of elimination, misidentified some of the elements in the British Museum as being from the Siphnian treasury.
And that is not
That's
correct.
not the case.
Okay,
No.
okay.
I was thinking of the frieze and the pediments of the Temple of Aegina.
Okay, that's
It
in
is
the
in the British Museum,
right.
but the Siphnian treasury, the little bit that remains,
It's at Delphi.
is at Delphi.
Yes.
Why didn't you correct me at the time, Winkle?
I was too distracted by my Elgars and my Elds at the time. Yes, I wasn't paying attention.
We also got some hate mail.
Wait, what?
Well, you didn't get any hate mail.
You got some hate mail?
I got some actual hate mail.
Oh, man.
Now, I've gotten lots of nasty looks over the years. I've got hate email, shall we say.
Yeah,
This week I got some actual hate mail.
like physical mail.
Yes, would you like to hear about it?
I would like to.
Okay, I'm going to hold it up to the camera
You
here.
have it here with you.
I brought it here with me
Look at
because
this.
it's burning. It is a postcard. It's a postcard.
Looks like
and
a ransom note.
It does. I think this is an act of grammatical terrorism.
That's what it is.
On the one side, it says Dr. David Noe and my address, and then it has letters that are cut out as though from a magazine.
Exactly.
You know, like the Unabomber. It says infinitives are verbs.
With an exclamation mark.
That's correct. And on the back, it has a picture of two ducks. Beneath one duck, it says juvenile.
Yeah.
And beneath the other duck, it says adult.
Are you reading something into that?
Yes.
Really?
I am being told that I am like the juvenile duck.
And you're being schooled by the
and
adult?
it's time for me to grow up. I am not exceeding egg expectations.
Oh, man.
Some quack sent me this
I got you.
Some
Okay,
quack sent me this grammatical postcard.
What does this even mean? Why would somebody be so upset about this?
So one of the hallmarks of my teaching as a Greek and Latin scholar is that one must pay very close attention to the parts of speech.
That makes sense.
And thank you. And I teach my students to memorize the names of the parts of speech in Greek and Latin. Almost every trouble you have puzzling through a passage can be resolved by looking closely at the part of speech.
Gotcha.
You have to know what the word can do.
Yes.
Have you ever tried to pound a nail with a pipe wrench?
Yeah, in a pinch I have.
Yeah, and does it work?
No, it's usually
not very
it's
well.
a mess. Yeah.
You ever try to use a butter knife to screw on a switch plate or something like that?
More times than I'd like to count.
Yes, I have too. It doesn't work so well.
No, it does not.
So one has to know the tools.
Yeah.
So infinitives, I have to tell this grammatical coward who tried to call me out.
It's unsigned, right?
Unsigned.
Yes.
I even tried to check the origin. It says Metroplex, Michigan, which is the Detroit area.
They call it the Metroplex?
They call it the Metroplex.
Sounds
So
like a
I think
mall.
I have tracked down the individual, and he's listening, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to report there's no actual violence behind it, but there is loads of cowardice.
Oh, without a doubt.
You want to have a grammatical debate with me?
Yeah.
Fine, I'm ready. Let's go. We'll have a throwdown, as
Yeah.
they say.
But sign your
Sign
name.
your name.
Sign your name.
So infinitives are not verbs.
They're not.
They are nouns.
Oh, okay.
In English, to run is painful. To eat is relaxing. Those are infinitives that are nouns.
Hmm.
In Greek and Latin, it's the same way.
Okay.
I can get really upset about this.
can
We
see
could
that.
we could devote the whole episode.
Right. But like in Latin, the principal parts, the second principal part of a verb,
That
is
infinitive.
is the infinitive. So-
Yes, it is a verbal noun.
Okay.
Which means that it has verbal qualities, but its core identity
Yes.
is a noun.
I see. Okay.
So you are a podcaster, a guitarist, a father, all these things.
Yes.
But those are qualities, right?
Yes.
You have a core identity.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. Me either. Yeah.
Chocolate center, maybe, but
Nougat.
the infinitive is a noun.
Okay. You're standing by this. I mean, this
all
is
the best,
bedrock.
all the
Yeah.
best grammars from the 19th century and the early 20th, before people forgot what philology is, clearly state that infinitives are nouns. They're substantives.
So not only is this some grammatical terrorism, it's obscene.
It's ignorant.
Ignorant.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, some ignoramus sent me this. It set me off.
Yeah.
I had a very bad Thursday, let me say.
So you've been carrying this around for a few days. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It is akin to saying that the Earth is the center of the solar system.
Wow.
It's like calling celery a fruit.
My goodness. It's that bad.
It's off the charts.
All right.
So we just better set it down.
Yeah, you're going to get all worked up.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
You're out there. You know who you are, and so I'm calling you out. Let's have a grammatical throwdown. Infinitives are nouns.
That'd be a good episode.
Yes, quod erat demonstrandum. That which had to be demonstrated has now been proven. There we go.
There we go. There's no need for a debate.
That's it.
The problem has been solved.
It would be superfluous.
All right, Dave, tell us a little bit about what we're talking about tonight. Since we said Cicero, but it's more specific than that.
It's been very grammatical thus far. I'm going to have to reorient my gears here.
Do you need a moment?
I probably need a moment of silence.
Just to gather yourself. All right.
Errare est humanum.
I'm gonna set this.
You better set that off to the side.
Off to the side.
Errare est humanum, right?
Yes.
To make mistakes is human. Errare. Would you call that an infinitive?
No, I'd say that's a verbal
careful.
noun.
It's a verbal noun.
Yeah, it's a verbally noun.
There you go. It's a verbal noun.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
We're going to talk about Cicero. Specifically, we're going to talk about his philosophical treatise De Natura Deorum.
Okay.
The nature of the gods, or we might translate it more idiomatically, what's up with the gods?
What's up with the gods?
Yeah. Because remember, we did that four-parter on Epicurus and Epicureanism.
And we offered lots of what we thought were better titles.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. The
whole enchilada. That's pretty much all I can remember.
It, yeah.
We didn't think that the nature of things was very good for De Rerum Natura,
right?
Which is the title Lucretius himself gives his lovely poem. Mm-hmm. Cicero doesn't give it this title, but it's in the text, De Natura Deorum. And if the universe has a nature, Cicero wants to know, do the gods have a nature? So he asks this question, what is the nature of the gods?
Okay.
And I think what's up with the gods may sound irreverent, but it isn't, because I don't believe in these gods. Mm-hmm. They're not objects of my worship.
Gotcha.
So I think it's all right.
All right. Now let me ask you this: so, as a Cicero guy, where do you think this treatise kind of ranks? Not necessarily in its importance, but in terms of how often is this read today? I mean, does anybody pay attention to this?
No, I would say almost never.
Really?
And I would like you to define what it means to be a Cicero guy.
Well, I mean,
to let the audience understand what you mean by that.
Well,
term,
we
got some in-talk here.
This is the persona you wrote your dissertation on.
That's correct.
Right. And all I mean by Cicero guy is that this is someone you know a lot about, and you have a great admiration for.
I do.
I know, particularly as a Latin stylist.
Yes.
You have a great admiration for Cicero, so that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
A personal affection, actually.
Yes.
I grew to actually love the man, after studying him quite intensely for a few years. A similar feeling that you have for Apuleius.
I suppose I don't.
Don't you have a kind of affection, admiration for Apuleius?
I have an affection for the novel that he's associated with, not so much for the man himself. I think we just don't know that much about him. But I think it's very interesting is that when my connection to Cicero is much more him as someone wrapped up in the political turmoil.
Yes.
Near the end of where his life ended. In the 50s and the 40s.
That's right.
So I think of him more kind of as a player in that fascinating drama, more so than I think of him in terms of what were his philosophical beliefs,
right.
or as a stylist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where to place him as a philosopher generally? You're asking.
Yeah.
And where to place De Natura Deorum?
Yes, that's exactly what
in his oeuvre.
We're doing that now.
No.
Okay, sorry.
I can't pronounce French at all, but I just like to try to goof around.
Yeah.
So as we know, Cicero, born in 106, died in 43.
Yes.
And the listener can go check out A Date Which Will Live in Infamy, a relatively early episode back in December of 20?
20,
right?
Yep.
So he was forced to retire from politics with the rise of the First Triumvirate, right? This is prior to the assassination of Julius Caesar, which of course is March of 44.
Yep.
And prior to his own assassination at the hands of Mark Antony, December 7, 43.
Yes.
Correct. So before this happened, Cicero was forced out of politics temporarily, And it coincided with the death of his daughter, Tullia, right? Whom he calls Tulliola, my little Tully, right? And students are always shocked at how unimaginative Roman fathers are, right? They name their daughters after themselves.
Yes.
So Terentius, his daughter is...
Terentia.
Yeah, and Porcius, like, Porcius Cato, Marcus Porcius Cato, his daughter is Portia, right?
Yes.
And Lucius has a daughter, Lucia, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very predictable.
That's right. If you're Julius... You have Julia, and if you have a second Julia,
It's also Julia.
it's also Julia.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Julia, Julia Major, and little Julia, Julia Minor.
I wouldn't want to be known as Big Julia.
I would
It's
not
just
either.
terrible.
Yeah, so injecting pastry horns. In any event,
All right.
she died, and he was forced out of politics. This is a double whammy of sorrow for a man who has, however selfishly and vaingloriously, given his life to the Republic.
Yes.
That he loves.
Now, what year? Do you know what year does till
45.
45. Okay.
I can't remember if it's a spring 45 or fall.
So it's quite near the end of his life.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And this was a body blow because he was already divorced from his wife Terentia. Mm-hmm. His son, also named Marcus Tullius Cicero, was not living up to the father's expectations. He was a real slouch. He's off in Athens studying philosophy, supposedly under Cratippus.
But you got to, what a shadow to grow up in.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I would never want to be Cicero's son.
Kind of reminds me of of Tom Hanks' son, Colin.
I don't know anything about him.
But he's got one son that's kind of,
Overachiever?
He's got a reputable actor, he's got a career,
Okay.
and he's got one who's just kind of a schmuck.
Oh, really?
Yes, and just because kind of.
Are you, exposing ad nauseum to libel here?
Come after me, Tom.
Oh!
I love Tom Hanks, but it's fairly well known that he has a son that's kind of a little bit gone off the rails.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
But I have to think part of that's growing up as Tom Hanks' son.
Yeah, who could ever live up to that?
Right.
Incredible voice.
So Marcus Jr.
Marcus Jr. is often in Athens studying philosophy, a story told to us in De Officiis, one of the other of Cicero's most important, the most important philosophical work, and this is probably second or maybe third, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
And he's off there supposedly studying, but really just partying, and Cicero writes a 3-book screed. It's a philosophical treatise, an epistolary treatise, allegedly addressed to his son, but really addressed to posterity about what it means to be a moral and virtuous politician.
Wow.
Interesting to note about that son, and we may have talked about this in another episode, is that his son survived all the political turmoil and was given a minor post by Augustus, Octavian, later on.
Really?
And this seems to have been motivated by guilt.
Well, because Augustus sold his dad
Exactly.
out, right?
Augustus had allied himself with Cicero and said, I'll protect you against Antony. At the last moment, Antony and Octavian cut a deal. Octavian is Augustus. And, of course, the cost was Cicero's head.
Yes.
When Augustus was later asked about Cicero, what kind of a man was he? You remember Augustus famously said he loved his country, which is really very nice thing to say, but no kind of commitment on was he in the right or was he in the wrong?
Right.
Because everybody loved his country, supposedly. All
It's
Romans
kind of a weasel answer.
It is a throwaway answer.
Yeah.
It's polite, but it doesn't commit you to anything substantive.
Right. Yeah.
But out of some sense of guilt, perhaps, Cicero Jr., Marcus Jr., was given a post in the imperial administration.
And does he kind of disappear from history?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And that would have been terrible also, right? Have a famous father that you never really knew, kept you at arm's length, and made incredible expectations of you.
And then wrote a whole giant book
Correct.
With his cannons aimed at you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then he dies, and now you just have to kind of wander on your own.
Man,
Terrible.
That's rough.
Right.
That is really
So
rough.
Cicero retires from politics, and in an incredible burst of activity, he writes these 3 major philosophical works.
All in this short time period.
Yes, also the Tusculan Disputations. So the Tusculan Disputations, the Latin title, got to be a little bit, something. Disputationes Tusculunae, right?
So you want something more there? You want something better?
No.
Okay. All right, okay.
I was just waiting for you to, jab me a little bit for being pedantic.
No. I'm used to it by now.
Pedant, nice. Pedant away, right?
Pedant away, yeah.
Tusculan Disputations, dialogues set at his villa, following along Platonic lines about the immortality of the soul. Interesting, there are no really good, to my knowledge, there are no really excellent translations of the Tusculan Disputation.
Here's your next project.
I've thought about it.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
So a lot of this has got to be, talking about the immortality of the soul. He's consoling himself because he wants to think of his daughter as surviving metaphysically.
That's right. Yeah. He also wrote a Consolatio to himself, which is a smaller work, most of which does not survive.
Okay.
But some of these works were instrumental in turning Augustine of Hippo away from Manichaeism, his early error, to paganism, right? He became a full-scale Platonist, Augustine did, and from there he became a Christian later on.
Yes.
And Cicero was instrumental in that turn.
Okay.
This is a subject for a different
That'd be
episode.
That sounds like a great episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
So he retires, he writes Tusculan Disputations. At the same time, De Natura Deorum, released about the same time, in 3 books, and we're going to deal with it for 3 more episodes. So this one, I should say 2 more. This one and 2 more episodes will be on the Tusculan Disputations. Then he releases De Finibus Bonorum et Malorum, The Limits of Good and Evil. We talked about that a little bit in the Helluari Libris episode.
Oh, yeah.
The gorging on books.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, the magnum opus is De Officiis. On ethics, what it means to be an ethical person.
Gotcha. Now, my sense from Cicero was always that he was very involved in the political arena, and he was consul, and he was knee deep in this kind of stuff. But I always got the impression from my understanding of Cicero is that he never really had the stomach for it when it kind of came to kind of the killer instinct. He didn't. Would you disagree with that? It just seemed like that wasn't where, like, when you see him kind of being removed from that, and suddenly he explodes as a writer and as a thinker, it makes you wonder what he could have done if he hadn't been so kind of tied up in the political wranglings of his era.
You mean he may have been an even more accomplished thinker?
Yes, right. But the famous detail is that he was left out of the plot against Caesar.
Correct.
Right? And it was
because he couldn't be trusted,
it's kind of like a finger to the wind kind of guy.
Definitely.
You're right.
Well, I think that what you're putting your finger on, so to speak, is that he was famously vacillating. When Julius Caesar, and we're going to review a little bit of the date that will live in infamy, but that's all right.
Yeah.
When Caesar crosses the Rubicon and comes down into Italy, Cicero has to decide: do I side with Caesar, who's the obvious future, but whose principles are frightening and dangerous, or do I side with Pompey, who is also an opportunist, but seems to be a little more committed to traditional government, as Cicero sees it?
Yeah.
And he picks reluctantly. He picks the dud.
Yeah.
He picks Pompey. And he follows him off to Greece with all of the rest of the all of the rest of the Senate and so forth. He doesn't make it all the way to Greece, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And then he comes, kind of skulking back to Rome, where Caesar pardons him.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So, yes, he was famously vacillating. He didn't have that cutthroat instinct.
Yeah.
And was left out of the triumvirate.
Right.
Twice.
Right.
He was always on the periphery. Now, was he on the periphery because he lacked talent, or because he had principles that he was willing to die for? It's an open question. But he definitely did, in the end, die for his principles.
Without a doubt.
Whether he did that from heroism or clumsiness, it ended up in the same spot.
Right. Okay, yeah, that answers my question.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's get to our opening quote here, which I notice it's from your dissertation.
It is from my dissertation, which is going on 20 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Actually, I wrote this 20 years ago, and I defended it in 2003. It was about the same time as you?
Yeah, I think I defended it in 2002.
2002, you're ahead of me. All right.
Yep.
So this is from my dissertation. I got to get a little bit of mileage out of this because, it hasn't served me that much yet.
Okay. Well, let's dive in.
The title is Oikeosis, Ratio, and Natura.
Okay. Now, Oikeosis.
Oikeosis.
Define that, please.
Oikeosis is from the Greek word oikia. It's related to it, which means a house. And so oikeosis is things that belong to you.
Okay.
So this is best translated as self-appropriation. Right?
Okay.
So the Stoic idea, which we will deal with more when we get to Book 2 of De Natura Deorum, which is on the Stoics, is that we are all naturally born with a desire for self-preservation. Epicureans were born with a desire for pleasure. Stoics say, no, we are born with a desire for self-preservation. We just want to live, right? And so the way you do that is you take to yourself things that further your survival. And this is called oikeiosis by the Greek Stoic philosophers. The Latin term is commendatio, to take things to yourself.
Okay.
So the idea is oikeiosis, ratio, and natura. And then, of course, every dissertation needs a colon.
A colon.
A colon.
Yes, yes.
The Stoic challenge to Cicero's academism in De Finibus and De Natura Deorum.
Okay. Now, I don't want to get too kind of far off track here, but maybe you could share a little bit about kind of what led you to this topic. How did you kind of settle on this?
Well, once I had chosen Cicero, I was fascinated by Stoicism.
Okay.
And once I was fascinated by Stoicism, I was curious about the relationship between Cicero's, kind of like what you were saying. Your question a moment ago is the genesis of my topic.
Okay.
How can a person who is a self-proclaimed academic, which was Cicero. Now, academism, remember, is you only find you follow what's probable.
Yes.
You don't really know truth from error. You choose what's probable.
Yes.
And I thought, how can a person with that kind of philosophy have success in Roman politics? Because it's a very bad stump speech to get up and say, my principles, my platform is do whatever seems wisest at the moment. Right.
Yeah.
Vote for me, and I promise you 4 years of discriminating, difficult decisions.
Yes, exactly.
That's not a platform.
If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right.
Maybe John F. Kennedy said things like this. I don't know. Ask not what your country can do for you. Right?
Yeah.
That's not really a political program. It's a sentiment.
Yes.
And I don't see how someone can get elected now this is how stupid I am, but how you can get elected just based on sentiment. Well, of course you can.
Yes, right.
That is politics, right?
Exactly.
It's driven by sentiment. But I didn't think it would work for the Romans.
Yes.
So in Roman politics, you have to at least give lip service to supporting the mos maiorum, right?
Yes.
The tradition of the ancestors, pietas, dignitas, auctoritas, all these tosses, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so how could Cicero do that?
Right. And those things have a kind of they're grounded in some sense.
They have
They're grounded
content.
in tradition. So
Right.
as someone from his school,
Correct.
To kind of seize upon those things would be going against his
Absolutely.
philosophical program. Okay.
So compare him to someone like Lucretius, right? Lucretius as an Epicurean, how does he maneuver in Roman politics? Well, it's by complete absence from Roman politics. I'm just going to stay out of Roman politics.
Yes.
And Virgil, similarly, he had lots of skill and talent. He could have been some minor official probably in Augustus's regime.
Yeah.
But he survives by getting out of politics altogether.
Right.
Which is really an Epicurean impulse.
Right.
So what is Cicero going to do as an academic? Well, so what I tried to argue was that although he claims to be an academic, you really have to follow a kind of stoicism if you're going to participate in Roman politics, because of the three schools of philosophy, Stoicism is the only one close to traditional Roman morality.
I see.
That's the genesis.
So now, as we walk through the De Natura Deorum, are we going to kind of see Cicero himself kind of ultimately siding with the
It's
one
complicated.
School? Okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
the ending of Book 3 is especially interesting because he will end up saying something along the lines of, well, I don't find Kata the Academic especially persuasive, but then there's also problems with the Stoicism.
Okay.
Right? So he has great admiration for Stoic logic. The Stoics were masters of logic, apparently. And he will say that Stoicism has helped him a lot as a public speaker,
Okay.
formulating arguments and so forth.
Gotcha.
But at the end of the day, he says he still really wants to be an academic. And you kind of think, well, Cicero, you're trying too hard to preserve your independence of thought because all of your politics, they follow along a different track.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, very interesting. Okay. And so that was the central problem, that kind of that dichotomy that you were exploring in your decision.
And I managed to drag it out for 230 pages.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Funny story, maybe I told this already, but I got up to 280 pages,
Okay.
thinking it needed to be really long.
Yeah.
Sent the first draft to my advisor, who said, this is way too long. You need to cut out 60, 70 pages. I thought, why didn't you tell me this 2 months ago?
Wasted all this time.
I just want to get done at this point. I just want to finish.
So you had to cut a couple
It
chapters?
was good. I had to cut.
Okay.
There was a lot of fluff.
All right.
Yeah, I like these episodes. So, all right.
Why don't you read this?
You want the Ope quote?
Please do.
There is a rift. I'll try to read it in the voice of the author.
Oh, that'd be nice for the audience. Yes, I like that.
There is a rift in the philosophical thought of Cicero, a latent divide noticeable to anyone who reads his works with care. On the one hand, we have the author's express profession of allegiance to the academic school at many important points. On the other side of this rift, however, we find the Cicero of the law courts, Procestio and Procilio, and of the earlier dialogues, De Republica in particular, presenting arguments based on the immutability of the natural law, that's an important phrase, and the reliability of traditional Roman morality and customs. Moreover, this concern for traditional and conservative virtues was derived primarily from the Mos Maiorum of Rome, that conglomeration of civic and private obligations that had a long history in Roman life. So far, it's reading like a dissertation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's very clear, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a non-controversial claim. Nor is there much debate that of the three Hellenistic schools, only Stoicism shared considerable common ground with this tradition. But it seems clear that if we grant that Cicero's engagement in Roman civic life was an attempt, at least, at a deliberate application of his philosophical convictions to the political realm, an immediate discrepancy is noticed between the academic suspension of judgment he formerly espoused and the strong concerns for absolute justice and law that seemed to exercise him.
Okay. Now, just a immediate thought as reading that, and we were talking about Cicero as kind of a vacillating politician.
Right.
Could we see Cicero as someone who just kind of changes masks based on what arena he's in?
Yes, and that is the traditional interpretation of him.
Okay.
When I say traditional, everyone admired Cicero enormously until maybe the rediscovery of his letters during the Renaissance by Petrarch. Before that, we didn't know how conniving he was in private.
Ah, okay.
Because his letters weren't in circulation. And then Petrarch discovered them in the 14th century, late 14th, early 15th century, published these, and now we see the inner workings of the man, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of a person you are, Winkle. Well, actually, I do. You're a great guy.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But if we had to rifle through your Gmail archive, we would find maybe a slightly different image of
Who could stand?
Jeffrey Thomas Winkle.
Probably, right.
And if you look through my Gmail archive, whoa, you talk about a rift.
Right. Well, I mean, but with the letters, we discover that Cicero's a human being.
Yes.
Right. And if you only have someone's kind of polished work, you're just dealing with a statue.
Exactly. And private moments, are private. When people are watching us, we act differently because, I think we do, right? We want to live up to our better angels or to the things we publicly profess if we have an integrated personality.
Exactly.
So we find out that Cicero's a human being when his correspondence is rediscovered. Then also in the 19th century, there's a German history of Rome named Theodor Mommsen. I think he's German. I'm quite sure. But in any event, Cicero's reputation as an original thinker reached an all-time low under Mommsen.
Now, where's this coming from? Is it just from that German school at that particular time, or this been kind of building for a while?
My understanding is that as more and more is learned about the sources on which Cicero relied, primarily Greek philosophy, there's tremendous admiration for the creativity and originality of the Greeks. Right? So after Plato and Aristotle, but before guys like Cicero and Seneca, there are a lot of philosophers of that 300-year gap whose works are mostly lost.
Yeah.
As some of these are rediscovered, we find out a lot of Cicero's thought is in no way original. And so then, a romantic desire, I would say, for originality led to Cicero's reputation, diminishing significantly.
Now, a couple of things there, though. One, we know, say in like poetry and literature, originality, as we often kind of think of that, is not necessarily prized, right? It's an homage, right? You never saw it
among the ancients. You're saying
among the ancients,
absolutely,
right? And so I think we need to clarify what we mean by original. No one would think to outdo Homer.
No.
But you might kind of add your own particular color.
Well, the goal is to rival Homer, right, by imitating him.
Yes.
And then maybe, like you say, add a little bit of color. Maybe add here and there some touches. Here's an example.
Okay.
See how this works. So the epic simile in Homer, the world of human society is compared to the world of nature.
Yes.
So when Hector attacks the ships, the Greeks come stumbling out of the burning ships like wasps from a burning hive.
Yes.
Right? So what does Virgil do? He says, well, I'll take the Homeric simile and I'll imitate it, but I'll innovate on it by comparing not men to nature, but I'll use something in nature and illustrate it by comparing it to human society.
The old switcheroo.
Yes. Which is brilliant.
Yes,
it is really brilliant. So in the, somewhere in book 1 of the Aeneid, he talks about, when the storm is calmed by Neptune and the winds all obey, so there's nature, it's like when a good orator speaks in public and people stand there with their ears on end. Auribus a rectis, I think is the phrase. So he's taken the basic Homeric simile, but he's tweaking it a little bit.
Right.
That's a different kind of originality than people expect today.
Yes, exactly right. So I wonder if some kind of clarification along those lines might kind of a different understanding of originality might be kind of a false criticism of Cicero.
Definitely.
Right. And then second, does Cicero as a philosopher ever claim, I am telling you something new?
No, he in fact says the precise opposite.
Okay,
he
then.
explicitly says the opposite.
Okay.
He says, all these ideas are Greek. All that I do is add words in which I have an abundance, right? Something like equibus abundo, right? I have a huge supply of these. So
Yes.
I get my ideas from the Greeks. I just translate them. He uses the word translate. I translate the ideas into Latin for my countrymen.
Right. And I think when you consider that, how much we owe Cicero in changing Latin from a kind of a rustic language
Definitely.
to a language that is rivals Greek.
Oh,
to some degree, then the very fact that he's doing what he's doing by translating things is an act of originality in and of itself.
it is. It's a huge service to his countrymen.
Yes.
It's a huge service, and that's really why he did it.
Okay.
So I think you have opened a rich vein here of discussion. And
Yes.
I'm thankful because the concept of originality, very different in antiquity than today.
Yes.
Right? So you can think of music also, right? I'm going to get outside my realm, but my understanding is that, the classical composers, a guy like Haydn and Mozart, they learned Bach really, really thoroughly before they wrote their own stuff. Their
Right.
desire was not to start from scratch, but master the form. So Cicero is just using other people's stuff, and there was a time in the 19th century during the Romantic period where that was considered really unbecoming.
Okay. But that's changed now.
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
But it took a long time.
It took a long time. So now his reputation has been revived. And when I wrote this in early 2000s, I was riding the crest of that wave a little bit.
Okay.
Imagine me riding the crest of a wave with Cicero.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Got that image?
I'm seeing you on a boogie board.
With some Bahama shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
With Cicero.
With Cicero, yeah.
And so I was relying on a number of really great scholars.
Okay.
A. Long, whom we've talked about before.
Yes.
And then another volume that I want to quote from here also by a scholar, J.G.F. Powell.
Okay.
I know you're going to say...
What? Why so many initials?
Too many initials.
Way too many. Yeah, exactly. Right.
J.G.F. Powell, a fantastic scholar, wrote this Oxford volume in 1994.
Okay.
Right before we entered grad school, about the time we entered grad school.
So it was kind of hot off the press, more or less, when you were starting to put this together.
That's right.
Yep.
And the title is simply Cicero the Philosopher.
Okay.
And in it, he is rehabilitating Cicero's reputation as a thinker. Now, not an original thinker in the way in the way we might think today.
Yes.
Like, these are brand new ideas.
Right.
No, but he's synthesizing Greek thought and representing it to his countrymen.
Yes.
It's
Gotcha.
a useful task, I would say.
Yeah, it struck me too. I might be getting a little bit ahead of things.
Mm-hmm.
But so the De Natura Deorum,
Right.
it's a dialogue.
Yes.
Yes. So he's clearly in some ways taking his cue from Plato.
Yes, and we have to talk about that at some length.
Right. But what struck me as I was kind of looking through book one is that in some ways he's taken kind of the Platonic structure and he's flipped it.
You're right.
And so it's no longer kind of Socrates kind of embarrassing people.
Correct.
So it doesn't, in the dialogue, it's not Cicero showing up and kind of making people look foolish. He's almost taking he's invited these three great thinkers who I think they may be
They represent the different schools,
right? And they're over from Greece because of the Mithridatic War. Isn't that right?
Well, the actual characters in the dialogue are Romans.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. He is drawing from the education he got from these Greek Greek experts.
That's it.
And then he's just dressing them up, right?
Right.
So it's Philosophia togata is how it's often called. Right?
Okay.
Philosophy wearing a toga.
Right.
Which is, despite pop culture, not a Greek garment, right?
Right, exactly.
Not a Greek article of clothing.
No, not at all.
The toga is Roman.
Very, very Roman.
So the Philosophia togata, right? Philosophy wearing a toga. It's Roman now.
So someone hearing or reading this dialogue likely would have been familiar with the Platonic way of doing things.
Definitely.
And they would have recognized, I get it, but this is also something kind of new.
Yes. Okay. And so a good argument that can be made is Cicero's originality lies, like you were saying, in the way in which he presents familiar material.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was so deeply ambitious, too. I mean, just unbelievably ambitious. Not only did he want to be the Roman Demosthenes, right, as the great orator, and he probably achieved that.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the Roman Plato also. And nobody thinks that he achieved that, but he comes closer than anybody else.
Right.
He's the closest also ran. That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Right? You get inducted into the Hall of Fame as, the second best quarterback or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Right.
So one thing before we go to our commercial break is you could quarrel here with this part I said in the opening quote. If we grant that Cicero's engagement in Roman civic life was an attempt at a deliberate application of his philosophical convictions to the political realm, that's a real potential weakness in my thesis, right?
So you have to accept that to go where you're going.
That he's actually trying to take things he really believes in and put them into practice in politics.
Okay.
And maybe that's naive. Maybe it is just a power game. He doesn't really have any convictions. It's just, how do I get elected? How do I get the results I want? See, I don't want to believe that.
And it was just pure ambition?
Correct. And I don't think it's true, but who knows for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, let's pick this up after the commercials.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by Hackett Publishing, with offices in
Indianapolis,
Indiana, and Cambridge, Massachusetts.
That's right. For almost 50 years now.
This is the 50th anniversary, Winkle.
Oh my gosh.
2022 is the 50th anniversary of Hackett Publishing. Well, yes. What have they been doing for 50 years?
They have been providing readable, affordable, really well done translations of course, the classical works we're most interested in, but stuff from all corners of the world.
I learned just recently that my daughter, who is studying classics, down in Texas, is using the Stanley Lombardo translation of the Odyssey in one of her classes.
Excellent. I'm using it right now in the myth class I'm teaching.
The Lombardo translation?
Yes.
This is the one of, the D-Day is the Iliad,
yes,
right?
This has got the Earthrise photo from the moon.
So what is the genius behind that presentation, do you think? What is it getting at?
It's like the ultimate journey.
The ultimate journey is to go to the moon.
It's like as far away from home as you can get. Right?
So it's an evocative, emotional photo to illustrate the content of the Odyssey.
Yes, and Hackett does that so well with so many different things. I've seen it primarily in their classical works. I'm not sure about the others, but I love what they've done with the Greek tragedies and Homer.
Well, and they have a large catalog.
Yes.
Wonderful things on offer. I'm teaching this LLPSI course now, the Lingua Latina per se illustrata. It just launched. It's doing well. Here's the tie-in.
Yeah.
If they sign up for my course, they go to Hackett, they get Lingua Latina, Familia Romana, and they get 20% off.
Yes.
And free shipping.
But that's an offer not just for your Latin students.
No, it's everyone.
Everyone gets this, right? So if they go to hackettpublishing.com.
That's correct.
And any text you want.
You wander down the aisles with your squeaky wheel grocery cart.
Right. Yeah, with your satchel.
Okay.
Right? And then you
drop some things in there.
Yeah, and you type into the coupon code. I believe it's AN2022.
That's correct.
2022, new year. Yep. And you will get the 20% off and free shipping.
Check it out. You can't miss.
Yes. This episode of Ad Nauseam also brought to you by the Moss Method.
Jeff, it's just by Moss Method. We dropped the, remember?
Oh, that's right, exactly. Am I going to get an angry postcard from you?
You're going to get an angry postcard.
By Moss Method.
Yes. Okay. So the Moss Method for Greek, there I did it, is a program that will take you from neophyte
to erudite.
Correct. If you know little or nothing about Greek, I can teach you how to know a lot about Greek. I've taken my 20 years plus of study and teaching, put them into this program. Go to mossmethod.com. Check it out. Sign up.
Yes.
And you'll get to interact with me 1 hour per week during our Moffus hours.
Moffus hours.
That's right.
Excellent. Check it out.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by Ratio Coffee.
Yes,
Ratio Coffee, Portland, Oregon. They have been bringing a delicious coffee for several years now through their Ratio 8 and Ratio 6 automatic pour-over machines.
Yes, these are beautiful machines.
Gorgeous.
We each of us, you have one, I have one. You've got the 8. I've got the 6.
Yes.
Every morning, reliable, delicious cup of coffee.
Well, I missed a couple days, I got to tell you.
What happened?
Well, when I was down with, the virus,
yes,
I went off coffee for a couple of days, and it was an interesting experience, but I soon returned to coffee.
Well, you just couldn't make it down the stairs?
I couldn't make it. You mean, why wasn't I brewing coffee?
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of takes away your appetite, and it changes everything. You had that experience, right?
I do, yep.
But I was so glad to return to not some bilge water stuff you scrape off your mud flap or into a mug,
Exactly. Or leave it roasting on some scorch pad.
Oh, that's terrible.
Exactly.
But no, something made by Ratio. I'd like to read a quote from the New York Times, and let's face it, if it's in the New York Times, it's true.
It's got to be true.
They say Ratio 8 was designed by a Portland, Oregon company that is to coffee what vintage Marantz was to stereos.
I got to admit, I don't know what that means.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
I don't know Marantz.
Marantz, I guess it's a good stereo.
I'm some barbarian.
Yeah, let's return to the quote. It's by nerds for nerds. Under all that brushed nickel and polished wood is a serious machine.
Wow.
So there you have it, the New York Times, the Gray Lady, right?
The Gray Lady gives it the thumbs up.
She does. She
Yes.
says that the Ratio 8 is a phenomenal coffee machine.
Excellent. Yes. And our listeners can benefit.
They can.
If they go to ratiocoffee.com.
RATIO coffee.com. We'll throw it up here. Mishka will put it on the screen for us.
And they can choose the 6 or the 8.
And they can get 15% off.
And the coupon code is ANCO.
ANCO. And there's more, right?
There's more.
Yes, they go to ratiocoffee.com/ANCO.
Yes.
Right, being ad nauseum. They can sign up for the giveaway that we're still running.
Excellent.
Apparently, you folks don't want a free coffee machine.
What's wrong with you?
I don't understand.
Come on now.
So listen for the secret code. It's 4 digits. And go to the site, put it in. You could enter the new year. You're still entering the new year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're still. Well, yeah.
Are we still entering?
Yeah, we're 3 weeks in.
You think the days are getting shorter
I know,
still.
we're going backwards, yeah.
And you could win a free Ratio 6.
Yes, so pay attention. This episode of Ad Nauseam also brought to you by the Gold River Trading Company. Which
Yes, brand new sponsor.
excellent, very exciting.
Yes.
And they deal in tea.
Premium tea.
Premium tea.
Now, we have so many loyal listeners, so many folks sending us emails, interacting, occasional hate mail.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a lot
I've
of fun.
seen.
It's a lot of fun. But not everybody's a coffee drinker. Right?
It's hard to believe, but
I know.
Yeah.
So we are delighted to say that we now offer something for you tea folks out there, too.
Excellent. So what's this all about, this Gold River Trading Company?
Well, the Gold River Trading Company is a brand new company that wants to offer American consumers a wonderful, delicious premium tea.
Gotcha. And I think a part of their deal is that sometimes tea is not seen as particularly American.
That's right. In America, tea is occasionally seen as something that other people drink.
Right.
It's kind of maybe sort of a parlor British kind of thing.
Too Britishy.
Yeah.
Are you familiar? Have you watched this very popular show, Ted Lasso?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, that's a running gag in this.
It's a lot of drinking tea?
Well, he's an American coaching soccer in England.
Okay.
And of course, everywhere he goes, people are offering him tea, and he doesn't like it because he's a coffee drinking American.
Right. Well, when I first visited England, jolly old England,
yes,
and it was tea time, inevitably somebody would say, "I'll be mother."
What?
Yeah, and what is that?
What does that even mean?
It means that, they probably don't say it anymore because it's not woke, but at the time, 20 years ago, they said, "I'll be mother." It meant I'll be the one who serves the tea and puts the milk and sugar out for you.
Gotcha.
So I was really puzzled by that, and as a coffee-drinking American, I was a little put off. Yeah. I'm not going to be mother. What are you talking about? But I have learned to enjoy a delicious cup of tea.
Yes.
And that's provided by the good folks at Gold River Trading Company.
Right. So they offer a chamomile.
They do.
A green tea.
Yes. They have an American breakfast tea.
Yes.
1776 American breakfast, and the gunpowder green.
Well, that sounds dangerous.
Well, it's delicious.
Yeah.
And you've seen the packaging, right?
Oh, I love the packaging.
They come in these little tiny silos of sealed goodness, right?
Yeah.
And inside are these pyramidal
Yes, exactly. Pyramid shaped.
Yes, pyramidal. You going to dumb it down for the audience, Michael?
Well, you might have slurred a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
These pyramidal sachets. Sachets?
Sachets. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Which contain not just the off-scourings of some kind of dust that you put together from twigs in your yard, but premium tea leaves. Why are you laughing?
We previously talked about things scraped from mud flaps, I believe, right? So, yeah.
That's the theme.
Yeah.
Most tea bags use leftover tea dust and fannings.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But not Gold River.
No, that limits the flavor and the benefit of the tea. Gold River Trading Company uses whole leaf tea, as you can see from looking at the sachets.
Sounds great. So how can our listeners benefit?
Okay, so they need to go to the website.
And the website is goldriverco.com.
That's correct. Gold, we hope you can spell that, River, C-O,
Yep.
as in, company, .com.
.com. And the coupon code?
Well, they got to enter a coupon code when they have selected their delicious tea items. And the coupon code is ANTEA. So ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum.
TEA.
Yeah.
TEA.
TEA.
Just like you'd spell tea.
Yes.
So they're going to up the ante. Oh. You like that?
Actually, I do like that.
Do you like
well
that?
Done. Well done. Yeah.
So check it out. You're going to love the tea. It's delicious. It has, it's really some excellent product.
Very excited to welcome Gold River.
And finally, this episode is brought to you by a brand new Latin program that I'm offering.
Excellent. Tell us about it.
Well, this is through Latin Per Diem, the website. This is the Lingua Latina Per Se Illustrata, right?
Your favorite Latin textbook.
My absolute favorite textbook published by Hackett. So in this course, for $199, you can get a large slate of instructional videos where I am teaching a live audience. I am teaching them through this book, Lingua Latina Per Se Illustrata. You get audio exercises. You get me grading your exercises. You learn some Latin composition. We're running the beta right now. The beta filled up right away.
Fantastic.
And soon we'll be opening it up for a broader audience.
Excellent.
So you want to go to latinperdiem.com/LLPSI and check out the offering so that very soon you can sign up. And if you really like this episode on Cicero and De Natura Deorum, and you already know some Latin, you can watch me teaching others this high-level masterclass in Latin based on Cicero's De Natura Deorum.
The very thing we're talking about today.
That's correct. It's available for purchase. A lot of people have signed up, seem to be really enjoying it. So after the class meets, I send the link, and then other students, actually from a broad range of different kinds of individuals, are watching and following along in their Latin textbook, their Cicero, and gaining some real good knowledge of this author.
All right, Dave, so as we get back into this, we should probably get around to the De Natura Deorum itself, right?
Do you think we haven't been there?
Well, we've been talking a lot of, I think, key, interesting stuff, foundational stuff, but we did promise we were going to talk about this particular work.
Exactly.
All right, so where should we start here? You want to talk a bit about maybe like the structure of the work?
Well, I want to pause just a minute and talk about Cicero's work in philosophy, which ties into the structure very closely.
Okay.
So it is not a coincidence that this work has 3 books. It has 3 books because there are 3 leading schools of Hellenistic philosophy, right? Hellenistic philosophy is everything basically from the death of Aristotle, which is 1 year after the death of Alexander the Great,
right?
322.
Yes.
Death of Aristotle down to Augustus. That's the Hellenistic era.
Right.
Like Peter Green's famous Alexander to Actium.
Yes.
Right? That volume. That's the Hellenistic era. So the 3 schools are all the heirs of Plato, Epicureans, Stoics, Academics.
Okay.
Those are the 3 schools. So we've got 3 books also in De Natura Deorum. Book 1 is, what do the Epicureans think about the gods? Now we're going to go a little bit light on book 1, as we already said, because we've covered Epicureanism, quite extensively in those previous episodes.
Yes.
Book 2 is, what do the Stoics think about the gods? Book 3 is, what do the academics think about the gods?
Okay.
So the structure is really conducive to instruction, I would say. Cicero is a master teacher. He has in his mind's eye always, how do I get this complicated Greek material to a Roman audience that really isn't all that interested in philosophy?
Right.
They're a practical-minded people.
Right. Now, as I understand it, so he's writing this in the 40s.
That's right.
Near the end of his life.
Right.
But he's basing it on a discussion that he did have with these 3 guys about 30 years before.
Yes, that's right, around 79, 78.
Okay.
So just like the Platonic dialogues, there is both an actual dative composition, right? A date of composition, and then there's you might call a literary date, right? So when Socrates, is debating about politics and ethics and so forth, this is all prior to 399.
Yes,
when
of course.
he was assassinated or executed.
Yep.
But Plato, right, is writing these as much as 20 to 30 years after, perhaps. He could have been writing them in the 380s, 370s, even 360s. It's possible. Similarly, Cicero has the historical date, and he's got the literary date.
Right. So, in terms of kind of understanding this work as the same thing with Plato, were these things literally said? Right.
It's not really the point.
It's not really the point.
Right.
But I think it's important to note this because it presents itself as like you are there.
Right. Yes, exactly. And Cicero was not a dilettante philosophically. He was a serious student. So although he was an orator, a lawyer, philosophy was his avocation all life long. And I guess that's what endears him to me as well. Right? I'm not really a professional philosopher, but I like the idea that you can be really good at one thing, hopefully, and you can have another interest that you pursue avidly, just because you like it. Right. And that's Cicero.
Yeah.
So I'd like to read from the Rackham introduction. So Rackham is the Loeb edition. It's in the public domain, and it's in the introduction. It's Roman numeral page 10. He says, Cicero studied philosophy in his youth under the heads of all the three leading schools. For Philo of the Academy, Diodotus the Stoic, and Phaedrus the Epicurean all came to Rome to escape the disturbances of the Mithridatic War.
Yes.
So this is late 80s, early 70s.
Gotcha, yes.
Turmoil in Athens. There was a migration of philosophers from Athens to Rome.
Yes.
Right? Very similar thing happened during the Renaissance, actually. It launched the Renaissance when Constantinople fell in 1453. All these Greeks come to Italy.
Right.
So history repeats itself. Rackham says, Cicero gave 2 more years to study in his maturity. At the age of 27, he withdrew for a time from public life, spent 6 months at Athens studying philosophy under the Epicureans, Phaedrus and Zeno, the Academic Antiochus, and then he passed on to Rhodes for rhetoric. In Rhodes, he met Posidonius, the leading Stoic, as Diodotus had stayed in Rome as a guest at Cicero's house and resided there till his death. When Cicero went home and resumed his public career, he still continued his studies in his intervals of leisure, as appears from many passages in his letters. And when under the triumvirate his career flagged, he turned more and more to letters, that is, to literature. So he wrote De Republica, modeled after Plato's Republic, and he wrote the Laws, De Legibus, also modeled after Plato's Laws.
Yes. So a Renaissance man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And okay, so maybe his thought isn't original. Maybe he's just channeling Greek philosophy. He's doing a service to his countrymen. Right.
Now you used the metaphor of music a while back.
I tried.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very apt in that I think language and music have a deep correlation in that when you hear like a work of Mozart, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take a few bars to know that's Mozart.
That's him.
But there's an element, of course, that you can't put your finger on.
Right.
So I think that the same thing with Cicero's style.
Right.
And I imagine hearing him speak. There's probably that kind of mystical thing you can't quite put your finger on.
Yes.
But you hear it, you read it, you say that's Cicero.
It's genius.
It's genius.
Absolutely.
Right. You can't quantify that.
No.
So bring it back around to that question of originality. That's also I think a part of it as well. That those intangibles.
Definitely.
Yes.
We should say something about the data composition.
Okay.
Right, because our listeners are serious students of the classics.
Yes, they are.
A little bit of throwaway flattery there.
Nice.
But it's true.
It's true. Of course it's true.
So Rackham says, in the preface to Divination, another Cicero's work, Cicero gives an account of his philosophical authorship. We read there, he finished his 3 books of De Natura Deorum, What's Up with the Gods, after he had published his Tusculan Disputations, and that then, to complete his treatment of the subject, he began on divination, intending to add a treatise on fate. The preface quoted was written soon after Caesar's death, but the work itself came before it, as was De Natura Deorum. So then we have a lot of, here I'm not quoting, but we have a lot of references in Cicero's letters that help us secure when he wrote these different philosophical works. So it's a real gold mine that his letters survive, because otherwise we wouldn't know really where to put these.
Yes. Yep. Hey, before we
Yes.
continue, we should probably drop that secret code.
Oh, yeah, let's get that code in there.
So for the ratio contest, the code is 6567.
Should we drop our voices conspiratorially?
Yes, 6567.
There, I hope they heard that.
All right, so we have more. You want to talk more about the structure? Maybe should we do some Latin? Or
I think we're almost ready for some Latin, but I got one really juicy quote here from Rackham.
Okay.
So he says, in a letter to Atticus, I'm quoting Rackham here, the introduction to the Loeb edition. In a letter to Atticus, a little later, occur the words from Cicero, quote, before dawn, as I was writing against the Epicureans. Isn't that interesting? Don't you ever get up before dawn to write against the Epicureans?
It's never happened to me once.
Never?
No. I've woken up before dawn to go down to get some cold pizza.
Yeah.
but never to write against the Epicureans.
Hey, did you see that meme I sent you this week?
Which remind me.
So this is Goya.
Yes.
You got to describe that if people haven't seen it. It's Goya's painting of what?
It's Cronus eating his children.
Yeah, Saturn or Kronos eating his children.
Yes.
It's so disturbing.
It's a gruesome painting.
Right, but this hilarious meme has forever drawn the poison from it for me.
Yeah, and it's I believe it's a young woman,
yes,
right?
It's a university student,
yes.
right?
And she's in the same pose, but instead of
she's
biting
in the
off
same pose as Saturn.
Instead of biting the head off a god,
right.
She's eating pizza.
She's eating a piece of leftover pizza. And the energy and the composition and the style.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
It is very funny.
What do people do before memes?
Who knows? But her pose in that, it's so dead on.
Yeah, I wonder if she did that on purpose.
She had to have.
I thought it was maybe a candid. No,
it just happened to. No, it's way too close. It cannot be a candid.
But the look in her eyes and the appetite she has for that old pizza. It's spot on, as they say.
Maybe Mishka could throw that up on the screen.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Really funny. So he's up before dawn writing against the Epicureans.
Yeah.
So right, you set your alarm clock, I don't know, what, 4:50, 5:15?
Yeah.
I got to get up and I got to din the Epicureans because they're all washed up when it comes to the gods.
No, I don't think he set the alarm clock. I think he was so
Juiced.
riled up.
He was juiced.
Tossing and turning. He says, I got to get up.
I got to make it clear that
light a lamp.
Exactly. Yep. If you adopt the Epicurean position on the gods, everything's going to fall apart. He uses this phrase, magna confusio, perturbatio vitae, the disruption of life, and sizable amount of how shall we translate confusio? I can't say confusion.
No.
A turmoil of life and a sizable amount of angst. There we go. Is going to ensue.
Yeah. So I think it was bothering him so much, he had to get it down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Probably skipped his coffee or his tea.
or his tea. Right.
So we ready for some Latin?
Let's do it.
We've laid out the structure, I think, of the work pretty well. Mm-hmm. And the guy in Book 1 is going to be a poor Epicurean named Velleius.
Is he going to get flayed?
He is going to get flayed.
Okay.
Yep. And it's going to be mostly the Stoic, Balbus, who's going to come back at him in Book 2. And then we get in Book 3, Kata.
Who's the academic?
He's the academic.
Okay.
And many scholars say that Kata is Cicero's most interesting character.
Okay.
And I agree with that.
All right.
He's a good stylist. You ready for some Latin?
Let's do it, yes.
All right. Now, this is a brilliant first sentence. It's long and beautiful. Cum multae res in philosophia nequaquam satis adhuc explicatae sint, tum per difficilis brute, quod tu minime ignoras, et per obscura quaestio est de natura deorum. Quae et ad cognitionem animi pocerrima est, et ad moderandam religionem necessaria.
All right.
You're going to give us Rackham's translation.
Sure.
Right?
Sorry.
Rackham and Stackham. Here
Rackham
we
and
go.
Stackham. So there are a number of branches of philosophy that have not as yet been by any means adequately explored. But the inquiry into the nature of the gods, so this is where the title of it
De Natura Deorum
comes from, right?
Yep, they heard it.
Which is both highly interesting in relation to the theory of the soul and fundamentally important for the regulation of religion, is one of special difficulty and obscurity, as you, Brutus, are well aware.
That's correct.
All right.
So this is dedicated to Brutus.
The Brutus?
The Brutus, the tyrannicide.
The et tu.
That's the same one.
Okay.
The Kaisutechnon, the same guy.
All right.
So we've got just some beautiful Latin prose here with the per difficilis. It's really hard, this question, this one that deals with the gods. even though it is necessaria, he says, right, essential to understanding the soul and to practicing religion. So in order to get self-knowledge and to lead an ethical life, according to Cicero, you got to know what the gods are.
Right.
What's up with the gods?
Right. Now, I wonder, we were talking about this as part of a consolation after the death of his daughter. I wonder if also part of this is, this is also an era where Julius Caesar is being apotheosized, right? Is he also almost,
right?
But it's in the water, it's in the air. And I wonder if that's also kind of a part of kind of he wanting to explore this question, because the whole kind of notion of religion, who are the gods, and can human beings be gods, is kind of out there.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of bringing it back down to earth. I think
that's fair. I think the general reading of late Republic intellectual feeling about religion is that most of these men were imposters. That religion was just something that you did in order to get by in the state. Because the people expected you to have a certain amount of piety.
Right.
After all, Julius Caesar was the Pontifex Maximus at one point.
Right.
He belonged to the college of priests and performed the sacrifices and go through all that. But did they really believe it?
Right.
In some ways, it seems like a modern question that wouldn't have occurred to them so much.
Yeah, maybe so. There's a great scene in HBO's series Rome. Do you ever see that one?
I haven't seen a full episode.
Yeah, there's a scene where Julius Caesar arrives in Egypt, where he's about to meet Cleopatra, and he's being welcomed by the local magistrates, and it's full of kind of pomp and circumstance, but also lots of this kind of archaic Egyptian ritual. And there's a close up on the guy's face who plays Caesar, and he's just rolling his eyes. The way that Caesar is presented, that is someone who just sees this as all just kind of empty folderol. Right. And so I wonder if that...
he's entirely skeptical.
Entirely. He just thinks it's all nonsense, but he also recognized, I got to play this game. Yeah.
So one other point I'd really like to touch on here from the Proemium, before we start to look to wrap this up, is really on the first page. So I'm going to read a little bit of the Latin, and then we're going to dissect the three different kinds of positions that Cicero gives on the question of the gods. So he says, velit in hoc quaestione plerique, quod maxime veri simila est, et quo omnes se duce natura venimus, Deus esse dixerunt. Dubitara se Protagoras, nullos esse omnino Diagoras Melius, et Theodorus Cyrenaicis putaverunt.
Okay, all right.
So can you read that for us?
So that translates, as regards the present subject, for example, most thinkers have affirmed that the gods exist, and this is the most probable view, and the one to which we are all led by nature's guidance. But Protagoras declared himself uncertain, and Diagoras of Milos and Theodorus of Cyrene held that there are no gods at all.
Excellent. Right. So here Cicero very, very clearly, and I think it is the basis of the rest of the work, so it's a good place to, stick a pin, you might say. He lays out the three different possibilities on the existence of the gods. He says the majority of people, plerique, have said that the gods exist. Deus esse dixerunt. Yes, there are gods. He says if they're following what is vera simile, what is closest to the truth, has the closest appearance of truth, and he says if we reach where nature leads us. So there's a really interesting ablative absolute here, duce natura, with nature as our guide. So this was kind of the jumping off point for most of my thinking on this topic is Cicero believes in a kind of natural law. Nature is benevolent. If nature's guiding you, you're going to end up at the position that the gods exist. So this is a bedrock principle of natural law and what came to be called natural theology.
Is this a similar thing to what I'm thinking of a passage from Paul in Romans where he says,
absolutely
nobody really has an excuse because nature itself kind of speaks of the existence of God.
Absolutely. Okay. Romans 1 and in Romans 2 as well. And so for that reason, this is Cicero's great, perhaps, circumstance, accidental consonance with the Christian faith is there is a kind of natural law argument, a very clear one, right? Nature as guide, duce natura. Yeah. So that's the first group, gods exist. The second group is Protagoras. He said that dubitara se, I don't really know, right? I'm uncertain.
He's our man is the measure of all things guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. After whom Plato wrote, on whom Plato wrote a dialogue.
Yes.
It's named the Protagoras.
Yep.
The third position is that held by these guys who are outliers, Diagoras of Melius and Theodore of Cyrene, right, who said that,
No gods.
nullos esse omnino, they don't exist at all. So those are the three positions. Yes, they exist probably. I'm not sure.
Not sure.
And no chance.
Okay, right.
So that's what we're going to examine.
Theists, agnostics, and atheists.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Well, this is a setup for some great stuff, I think.
It is for the next two episodes.
Right, but you got to wrap it up.
We do indeed.
Up against the clock.
We went kind of far afield this week, didn't we?
We did, but I don't think no. I mean, I think it was necessary, right?
Okay.
I think maybe our listeners were expecting, from the title that we're going to dive right into these things. But I think a lot of that background and the comparisons and the setup was absolutely necessary.
All right, so we got to start looking to the next episode.
Yep.
Which will be number 71. 72.
72, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And we have some people to thank, don't we?
We do. As always, we thank Mishka, our wonderful engineer, puts us all together.
Adds the sound in, the graphics, producing the video edition, which is on the YouTubes.
Yes, check out the YouTubes.
And should we say in a kind of pleading fashion, please go to the YouTubes and subscribe?
I don't think we need to plead yet.
Okay.
We can just gently prod at this point.
I'll do some prodding, no pleading.
Yep. Thanks also to Agricola.
Agricola in the studio with us this evening.
On site, doing all the video.
Some excellent work.
Yes. What about that great music?
Well, the intro music is by screaming guitarist Mr. Scott Van Zen.
Love it. Yep.
And someday I'm going to throw up a picture of me and Scott. I got a photo with him, snapped a photo with him in Las Vegas.
Just hanging out?
No, not exactly.
No,
he just said, hey, let's get a photo.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
And he was very gracious.
Right.
So combines a kind of Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Really soulful player.
Great stuff. And then also music from vocal coach extraordinaire, Miss Ken Tamplin.
He's doing this series now. I mean, if you're into pop and rock music, which I know you are, and I like it too, he's comparing singers now and then.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's done some of the greats. This is how they used to sound.
Oh. This sounds potentially depressing.
It is pretty brutal because, if you don't keep your chops up, it's like studying Latin. You got to keep fresh. You're going to lose it.
That's right. Okay. Well,
I was thinking we should do something like that, right?
What?
Podcast now and then, laugh at old episodes of ourselves. Oh, boy.
Well, are we there yet?
No,
at least maybe after episode 100.
Time for a cheesy clip show.
Right. But listeners, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to shout out, let us know. If you got ideas for the show, you can write to Dave at adnauseum.com. Don't forget the V.
Or Jeff
yes.
at adnauseum.com. Please don't forget the V, because if you spell it wrong and
we won't get it.
You look around on the internet, you're going to go to some dark places.
Yeah, be careful,
so
please.
just remember the V.
Yes. All right. And I think I got the gustatory parting shots now.
We're going to tell them what's on for next week, right? We got anything else to cover here?
No, part two. Part two
of De Natura Deorum on What's Up with the Gods.
Exactly. We're going to talk about the Stoics.
Okay.
Yes.
And you, Jeff, you do have the gustatory... Oh, one more thing.
Uh-oh.
You can now rate a podcast on Spotify.
You can.
If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, please, give us a couple stars or however many you want to.
Yes, that helps us, our visibility, and
right.
It makes us feel good.
It does.
Yes.
All right, let's have it.
All right, this comes from one Sister Noella, who is also known as the Cheese Nun.
No way.
I have no idea what this means.
The Cheese Nun.
And she says, cheese is all about the dark side of life.
What does that mean?
I have no idea, but I kind of like it.
I was cheesy about I like it too. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.